Well, happy Monday, everybody. It's Bob Megan, and welcome to episode number 26 of the Coronavirus and the Independent Retailer podcast. I am your host, Bob Megan, and as always, I'm super honored that you are here. Today, we're going to talk about three really important perspective points. But before we get into that, I just want to share that I'm super proud of all of you. You know, on our Whizbang Retailers Facebook group on Sundays, I always ask for a positive focus. And I don't know about you, but I'm just feeling a tide change that people are feeling a lot more optimistic and hopeful, and we're ready to move. Some people got their PPP money. Some people in Canada are getting their stimulus checks. Our Platinum Mastermind group member from England got a nice little grant from his community, but I'm feeling a lot more optimism, a lot less panic, and a lot more optimism. And I'm super happy about that. You know, really pleased. So if you're not feeling that right now, that's okay too. You know, we've been talking about this all along. How you're feeling at any particular day is how you're feeling. It's just what it is. But I don't know about you, but I'm ready to start looking towards the future. And in this podcast, that's what we're going to start shifting more from survival to, okay, what are we going to do? It is changing. It is opening. How are we going to make the absolute most out of it? Which leads us into today's conversation on three, really important, what I consider important perspective points. And, I'm a lifelong learner. And, I've been doing this for a long time, 40 years, 19 in retail, 19 or 20, 21 as a retail trainer. And my two, in Colby, I'm a long quick start if you know anything about Colby. And in Strength Finders, my number one strength is strategic. So I love thinking about things, but in order for the things that I think about to turn into something else, I need information. And so I'm a lifelong learner. I love to read. I love to follow business thinkers. I love to follow personal development thinkers. And one of the people I follow is Brendon Burchard, New York Times best-selling author Brendon Burchard. Brendon was also a keynote speaker at the Retail Success Summit a while back. But last week I was listening to something that Brendon did, and Brendon said that as a leader, every good leader has three perspective points, not talking points, perspective points. Three things that are super important that they drive home regularly to the people they are trying to lead. Now, let me just say as a quick aside, you don't have to be the owner to be a leader. You don't have to be a parent to be a leader. A child can be a leader. An employee can be a leader. So these perspective points apply to everyone. But find three things, not five things, not 10 things, three things that are super important to what you're trying to do, and then drive them home again and again and again. And that made sense. So I thought, what are the three things that I would like to really share with you in these podcasts and as a leader of a community of independent retailers. And this is what I've come up with, and I hope that you find them helpful in your journey through this pandemic. The first one is something that we've talked about several times, and I made a Real Retail TV about it, and it's this whole assess, adjust, and advanced mindset. And the reason that this is such a critical perspective is the assess forces you to focus on what is happening now. It forces critical thinking. If you don't assess where you are right now, you're either panicking about what's happened in the past or you're worrying about what's going to happen in the future. Assess forces you to pay attention to what's happening right now. And once you get clear on what's happening right now, whether it's with your business, whether it's with your emotions around the pandemic, whether it's about relationships, once you engage in accurate thinking, then you can make adjustments. The second, assess, adjust. You can make adjustments that will help you get to where you want to go, which is where the third part of it is advance. So really, really engaging in accurate thinking, understanding where you're trying to get, make adjustments and get there. And I've talked about that a lot in this podcast, but now that I understand this idea of, a perspective point, I'm going to be talking about it more because I hope that it becomes part of the way that you think. It's the assess, adjust, advance mindset. It is a mindset. It is a mindset that focuses on accuracy and the present in order to get you to a better future. The second perspective is we're one day closer. And I didn't say that. This is the first time I didn't start that podcast with that statement. We're one day closer. Isn't that the right perspective? The right perspective is that we're enduring this, but that every day that we endure, every day that we stay in business, every day that we do what we need to do to stay in business, we're one day closer to the end. Someone complimented me recently about my metaphor of backpacking. They said, Bob, you're painting the picture. And that's what I'm trying to do with a perspective point. And that's what I hope you'll start to do when you develop your own perspective points. Painting a picture of walking out in the mountains in the rain when it's crappy, when it's lousy, when you're miserable, and you're just putting one step in front of the other. You're just trying to get to the trailhead, which represents a warm meal, a hot shower, a cold beer. And that's what we're doing here, right? That is a perspective point, that we're embracing the suck and we're just moving along. So that's the second critical perspective point. And the third perspective point is a little more esoteric, but I think it's even more important. And it's this whole idea of it's just business. So let me tell you a story. And if you have the Retail Mastery System, you've heard this story in the financial management module. So in 1999, my business was imploding. A long story around yo-yos and the worldwide plastic production capacity for making yo-yos. If you were at the Retail Success Summit last year, you heard the story. A truly wild business story. But anyway, due to circumstances outside of our control, our business was imploding. And I mean, it was really so in that morning, I talked to my financial advisor and I said, Jay, I got to protect my money, man. It's all going south. Our business is dying. And he says, you want to talk to this guy? I go, yeah. Of course, I was just in such a state of panic that I really wasn't thinking rationally. So anyway, I go home, I walk the dog, I come back in, and Susan's in our apartment, and she goes, Bob, here's the phone. And it was this guy, Tom Williams. And Tom Williams was this hyper successful business person. And, he asked me a bunch of pointed questions about our money and our finances and our balance sheet. And of course, I knew them all because I had poured over them ad nauseum for weeks and weeks. He goes, well, I think I can save your business. I was like, whoa. And so he says, well, I'm in Grand Rapids. How long when can you get to Grand Rapids? I said, Mr. Williams, I said, it takes 40 minutes to get to Grand Rapids. I can get to Grand Rapids in 20 minutes. So anyway, Susan and Steve and I pile in the car. We go see Tom Williams. And, I'm just literally vomiting all these problems out at him. My friends, our vendors, and I owe them all this money. We've got all this inventory. Our balance sheet is so far upside down. It's crazy, yada, 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 yada. And Tom Williams just kept sitting there and shrugging his shoulders and saying, it's just business. And so I'd continue with all my stress, and Steve would throw in all his stress, and Susan would throw in all her stress, and he would just shrug his shoulders and go, it's just business. And then we were driving home, and, all of a sudden, when I finally settled down a little bit, it was like, it is. It's just business. It's just business. This is one of the really important perspectives that we have to have. That what we're going through is stressful. I get it. Let me tell you another story. So for a couple of years, our business lost its mojo. We had a couple of wrong people in place, and WizBank retail training, we just didn't have our mojo anymore. We were still doing all right. We were doing good things in the world, but we didn't have our mojo. And so, but then then we made some changes. That's what you do when you're an entrepreneur. You make changes. So a couple people left, and we brought in a couple more people, and our mojo changed, right? Our mojo changed. And all of a sudden, now we're back at it, and it's going well. In fact, one of the things that I do when I finish one journal, I reread the past journal to make sure I learn the lessons. So I'm rereading my last journal, and all of these great things are happening. I mean, it's just like the enthusiasm was screaming off the page. Our mojo is back. We're making money. It's going great. And then this doggone coronavirus took all the wind out of our sails, right? And don't get me wrong, we're honored to be here serving you, but we had all of these projects that we were in the middle of, and we were doing some stuff, and now it's all changed, just like you. We're small business people just like you. And then we didn't get the PPP loan on Friday, and it just kind of made us go, oh man, it was just kind of discouraging. So, I had a bit of a pity party, but then to this perspective point, it was time for me to get some perspective, right? It's just business. It's time to move on. This is, whatever happens, it's not the end of the world. What I'd like you to think about right now is this whole thing of, you have been through worse things than this before. I guarantee it. Maybe unless you're really young, if you've lost a spouse or a parent or a sibling, nothing. Would you rather lose a sibling or your business? That really is the perspective. Or to take it even worse, let's say you lose everything in this thing. Let's say you lose your business and you go bankrupt and they take your house. Would you rather lose your house or your spouse? It's all a matter of perspective. It's all just business. It's all just business. So you see this coin I have right here? I bought this coin, and it's got a quote from Marcus Aurelius on the back. And Marcus Aurelius was the Roman emperor, and he was a Stoic. And a Stoic, what they believe is, where is the quote? The Stoics worked to become emotionally resilient to misfortune. And this coin says on the back, it's a quote from Marcus Aurelius, you could leave life right now. You could leave life right now. And I'm not a pessimist, but I do believe in perspective. And while what we're going through right now sucks, there are people who are doing a lot worse than us. And it just makes sense to keep it in perspective. Because at the end of the day, it's just business. It's not life and death. So, 3 critical perspectives. And I'm not going to talk about life and death. I'm not going to hold up my coin anymore, any of those things. But it really is the 3 perspectives that I'm going to try to keep in front of you. Not all 3 every day, but to sort of keep with it. Keep really, really in front of you and hopefully make them part of the way you think are. Number 1, the assess, adjust, and advance mindset. Keep you focused on the future. Keep me focused on the future. On the present. We're one day closer, because we are one day closer. We will be back with our customers. We will be back with our teams. We will be back in business. We will be able to start digging ourselves out. And we will be better because of what we've gone through here. And finally, it's just business. It's just business. It's really important that we keep this all in perspective. We keep this all in perspective. Now, Your action item, should you choose to accept it, is to find 3 perspective points for you as a leader. Whether it's a leader of your family, what are the 3 things you can tell your family, every day, twice a day? I love you. I'm proud of the way that you're handling this whole quarantine. I'm so happy that we're in this together. We've been through this together, sort of thing. Or the 3 things that you're going to tell your team. What are 3 perspective points that you can share with your team that you're driving home all the time? So that's your assignment, should you choose to accept it. Find 3 perspective points of your own and start repeating them often to your team so that it reinforces it to you and it reinforces it to them. Because remember, when you're a teacher, you're also learning. Like, this whole exercise forced me to think about what I was going to share with you. When you think about perspective points for your business, it's going to cause you to be a deeper thinker, better business person. So I hope that you found that helpful. I hope that you had a great weekend. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are one day closer. Things are opening up. Things are getting better. We're going to be back at it in the future, and let's stay with it. All right, I'm Bob Nagin, everybody. I sure love all of you, and I respect you, what you're doing so very, very, very much. And I will talk to you again tomorrow.